On November 1st at the 2023 PimaOnline Educator Conference, Barry Dahl will be speaking about disrupting the distance.
Hey, Reed, how you doing, man? So,
I'm good.
Speaking of distance, as an introvert, generally speaking, I like to keep my distance whenever possible. But I have to tell you, Reed, I'd like to disrupt the distance right now, the distance between you and me. I miss you, man.
I miss you too, Barry.
Barry. Hey, Reed. All this time no see.
Oh, yes. So we are here at Fusion 2023, and Barry, I want to ask you about disruptive technologies. When you think about the big picture and disruption and things that have really shaken things up outside of, the elephant in the room, which is AI, what comes to mind?
Well, if we're talking about disruption in education, if we go back 30, 40 years, there's actually probably no bigger single disruption for education than online education.
So picturing disruption 7 years from now, what do you think higher education is going to look like with all this new technology that is changing the way we teach and the way we learn?
I taught accounting for 17 years. TurboTax probably replaced a whole bunch of tax accountants slowly over the years.
Yep.
But now they're saying that AI-powered tax preparation could very well shrink that job substantially again. So for a student to learn how to do a long-form tax return, it's kind of like how you had to learn to do long division, but then you didn't use it. To think we're preparing them for a job of the future by being able to do a long-form tax return is probably short-sighted.
That's a great point.
And which was more disruptive to math education, the calculator or Wolfram? They both caused a form of a disruption in that many of the old methods that were used for instruction needed to be rethought. And I think that's actually a good thing.
Barry has a beautiful photograph of himself that was created by AI.
Lots of them.
What gives you joy when you think about using AI right now?
For me, it's still learning. I just really enjoyed finding out the next tool. So when there's a new tool that pops out, which by the way, with AI, it's anywhere from like 20 to 50 every day.
Right.
I am really enjoying the AI generated images, but it's still just trying to figure out how these tools can be useful and productive. And if they happen to be fun, well, I think that's a bonus.
What do online educators need to be thinking about as it relates to AI?
So we're here at the conference, and there's a fairly heavy emphasis on AI this year at the Fusion Conference. And the D2L team, including D2L Labs, they are working on how AI might enhance certain things within the LMS. I also wrote a post about this, and I know you've been thinking about this same topic. But even a year from now, some of the AI capabilities may very well be available directly in a learning management system, such as Brightspace and some of the others. So much of the focus is on the student use, but we need to flip it, and we need to look at how can that tool be useful to the instructor, especially for adjuncts who are juggling many balls, as you said, to find ways that they can have basically like an assistant.
I want you to imagine the busiest adjunct in the world. And suddenly there's a lot of technology to learn, and a lot of it is AI embedded, and some of it is just stuff that people are using on their phones like ChatGPT or Bard, or the latest thing that came out just yesterday, Claude 2. What do you recommend for adjuncts given their limited time?
Having been an adjunct once myself and having to learn new technologies as they came along, I would just encourage you to not just concentrate on how students might be using the technology, but I really encourage you to take a look at how AI might be useful to you. How can it make you more productive? How can it take certain tasks off your plate? Writing a test question, writing a reference letter. I actually have on my blog 6 of these things that AI can do a pretty darn good job of. And, at some point you got to sit down, you got to write a whole bunch of test questions. And you've been doing it for 20 years and they all kind of sound alike. And you want something fresh. Well, guess what? You just might get something fresh by using artificial intelligence. Writing lesson plans, it's actually pretty good at that. Writing test questions, pretty good at that. There's several things that you can have AI do for you so that you can concentrate on the things that really require your input and time.
So AI can get things incredibly right and incredibly wrong. Let's talk about when things get really incredibly wrong.
So I prompted it to tell me about the ethical scandal that Barry Dahl had at Lake Superior College in Duluth, Minnesota. First of all, I just want you to know there never was any ethical scandal. Okay, so that was the prompt though, and ChatGPT, their response I remember the best. But it just wrote a whole story about my ethical scandal. It said I was the vice president of academic affairs at Lake Superior College. Well, I was the vice president of technology, but never academic affairs. And it goes on and on. And so it tells this really interesting story about my ethical scandal and about how I then apologized and lost my job and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, I posted that on my blog. So now if you do a web search for Barry Dahl, my ethical scandal is probably going to be the first page of that web search. Hopefully they get to my site that tells them that it really isn't true, that it was just an hallucination. But if it can do that for me, it can do that for anybody.
So, Barry, if you could summarize in haiku form what you're going to be focusing on. So, I mean, just short and sweet, what is the heart of what you're going to be focused on most likely?
You know, a limerick I could maybe do, but I need a little time to come up with the rhyme.
Nicely done.
So, yeah, I'll have a haiku for you in November.
Sounds good. All right. We look forward to seeing you, Barry.
All right. Thanks, Reed.